This is my new to me AU XR6, which I bought crashed and rebuilt over the last few videos. Since buying my AU XR6, I've replaced the damaged door and fender with a blue door and fender, pulled the mangled body out with a full drive and a piece of string, painted the blue door and fender red, and deleted the gas system. You see, I love my AU. It's an XR6, and of course, it's got a nuclear power plant of an engine in tech. But it doesn't sound like it. Not only does the exhaust sound like someone's blowing through a plastic straw, it's got a massive exhaust leak coming from the exhaust manifold, which we're going to fix in today's video. These Pacemaker 4480s are going to make my AU XR6 sound like a freaking 2JZ. So what makes Pacemaker 4480s so good? Firstly, they are a tubular design, meaning that each individual cylinder has its own runner that rather than collecting into a single pipe, instead collects towards the end of the extractors, causing that sweet straight 6 rumble. And the tubular design isn't just for noise. It also means the exhaust gases leaving the engine have a smoother path, leading to increased flow and of course, more power. But first, before we chuck them on the car, we need to do something about this horrible paint job. So let's get on to that. So what I have here is some 240 and 400 grit sandpaper, and of course some flame-proof VHT black paint, which we're going to apply to these right after we clean up this mess that's going on these headers. Obviously, if you were to just paint over this current surface, within a few thousand kilometers, the paint's just gonna flake off. We're gonna start off with some 240 grit sandpaper, rough up the surface, and then we're gonna finish up with 400 grit, chuck some VHT paint on. After I sanded down the headers with 240 grit and 400 grit sandpaper, it was then time to clean the surface, prepping it for paint. Now some say prep is much more important than the actual paint job, so if you're doing this at home, make sure to take your time. Alright, so I cleaned up the pacemakers as best as I could. Unfortunately, the rust is so embedded in the metal that it's smooth to the touch, and you're not going to see it obviously after they're painted, but I couldn't get it out. So hopefully that's not going to cause any problems. But because it's kind of a cold day today, I'm going to heat up the metal so the paint adheres to it a bit better. I'm super keen to see how these turn out because normally pacemakers, as you guys may know, are bright blue and it looks a bit tacky. So the black will be a nice touch and it won't stand out too much in the engine bay. Now, instead of you guys literally watching paint dry, I finished up the painting process and took the AU out for some stock sound clips. Now, headphone viewers, you've been warned. This thing is a monster.
That is insanely quiet.
Yep, sounds like crap. Listen to it from the front with the exhaust leak. And it's stalled. I managed to stall an auto.
That literally just sounds like an air pump. It just sounds like air whooshing past. There's no exhaust note at all.
Time to change that. Now. So it was then time to get the AU into the shop and under the knife. But first, I had to convince Rex to let me use his hoist. I'm getting tired just watching the car go up.
This is actually such a game changer in the shop, having a hoist. It's so good. Makes it so easy to do work in your cars.
So we got the car finally up on the hoist. Feels very surreal working on my own car. I mean, I've worked on hoists for the better part of 5-6 years, being a mechanic and stuff previously, but my association with hoists is that I'm at work. Whereas now I'm like having fun putting an exhaust on and making videos for you guys, obviously, so. Removing the catback was the first thing to come off the AU before we could start removing the factory headers. Now, most of these bolts were super rusted, and the best way to get around that is using WD-40 or any other penetrant. But some bolts may still defeat you, so you need to have plan B ready to go. So this exhaust is welded solid right here at the slip joint where it goes over the live rear. So I need to use this thing. Nice. Holy crap. This thing's full of rust. If you own an AU with a live rear, you know exactly what I'm doing right now. In order to take the rear section off the exhaust that goes over the live axle, you have to remove the rear bumper. In all of Ford's genius designing this car, this was definitely an oversight. And because my car is fitted with a tow bar, I have to drill rivets out that connect the rear bumper to a part of the tow bar. And once the rear bar is off, we can then take out the rear section of the exhaust. Ooh, that hurt. That definitely hurt right there. Oh. Finally. All right, time for the cat pipe to come off. After this, it'll be the headers, but I feel a cheeky startup coming with no exhaust. I'm probably gonna regret this, but I'm curious. So let's see what it sounds like with literally just the headers on. Holy crap! That's so loud. Anyway, enough of that. It was finally time to take the rest of this crappy exhaust off. And the last thing to come off were obviously the headers. Once these were off, it was finally time to start transforming the way this AU sounded. So with Pacemaker 4480 headers, to get them in and fitted, you actually have to remove the steering column out of the way, or the steering shaft. There are two 10mm bolts holding it in. So the reason being is because the 4480s wrap around the steering column in such a way that you have to remove it first to then fit them to the engine. What I'm doing now is I'm just loosening that 10mm and that 10mm there, and hopefully we should be sweet. So obviously the full exhaust is off. While I've been taking the exhaust off, the 4480s have been drying outside, and look how mint they look now. Absolutely beautiful. Nice matte black finish, not too over the top. Time to chuck it in. Very, very keen. So it is the next day now. Finished up pretty late last night. Didn't have enough bolts, and I can't use the stock ones because the flange on the 4480s is a lot thinner than the stock exhaust manifold. So had to run over to Bunnings to get some generic bolts. So I've got them loosely fitted onto the pacemakers. M10 by 1.5, if you guys are wondering, is what the Barra and the intake use for the exhaust manifold. We're gonna get that all tightened up, get the rest of the exhaust on, get that freaking bumper back on, and I'm so keen to hear it. It's super important that when you're installing steel bolts into an aluminium head that you do not over tighten them. The torque spec for Ford intake engines is between 25 to 30 Newton meters. Stripping the threads out of the head is going to be a very, very bad day for you. All right, so the headers are fully bolted in. It's now time to reinstall the O2 sensor, and of course, the rest of the exhaust which is sitting on the ground. It's not like you guys are gonna be able to see anyway, because the lighting in my shop is so bad. I've got this used O2 sensor which the guy that I bought the 4480s and the full exhaust from gave to me. Fun fact, he pulled out his 4480s, his Intech and his T5 to put an LS in it. Good on you, mate. Seriously. All right, nip it up. Now we just plug that in. Jobs are good. It's time for the rest of the exhaust. Starting off with the mid pipe, and I'm not sure what kind of cat this is. I've never seen one like this before. I think it's called a dog pipe. The guy that sold it to me, he told me it was called a dog pipe or an infinity cell cat. I'm gonna take his word for it. It's probably really good. Getting the exhaust on by myself with that heavy ass muffler proved harder than I expected, but with a bit of profanity and some persistence, I managed to get the hanger onto the body mount. And from this point on, it was going to be a lot easier. I hoped. Not possible. I have excellent news. The exhaust is completely on. So unfortunately, this exhaust was on a drift car, so the tip is quite mangled, I must say. This was an absolute pain in the ass because it's all rusted here. Aligning that, because you need to smack this in. There's no other way of doing it. I've butchered it a little bit here, but as long as it works, I don't really care how it looks underneath. But the rest of the exhaust is tight. So you know what that means? It's time to start the bloody thing up. So one thing you should know about this exhaust is, as you may have noticed, there is only one muffler on this entire thing. And I'm pretty sure it's a straight through muffler, which means it won't do a whole lot. I'm a little bit worried that it's gonna be too loud, but it's gonna sound bloody good. I mean, I'm gonna say something controversial here. There are not a lot of NA straight sixes that sound better than an Intec with 4 480s. I said it, I don't care. I don't care about your M50, M52. This is a $300 engine. How much is an M50? Oh, 2 grand? $1,000? That's what I thought. For the money, $500 engine, let's say 500 bucks. $500 I spent on this entire exhaust. Let's see how it sounds. Oh my God, I'm so keen. The keys, grab the keys. Ready? Holy crap. Bro, it sounds so tough. Listen to that, man. Holy shit. Woo! No exhaust leak, but once this thing warms up a little bit, I'll definitely give it some revs. Sounds so good!
Holy f, that's way louder. Jeez. Can confirm that is significantly louder.
Yep, too loud for a daily. Sounds good. Do you want the exhaust?
Yeah, give it to me.
All right, let's go on the Rex.